Hello, good evening, and welcome to Off Track Small Talk. Tonight, I'm going to be chatting to a driver who is making his debut in Formula One this year, Mark Balmer. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you very much. So, although you're kind of going to be new to Formula One, I guess some people might recognise the surname having a bit of a link with Formula One already.
Yeah. So, for anyone that doesn't know, we run a family business called Balmer's GM. And probably for the last 25 years, through my dad, we've been sponsors of John Lund. Most famously, probably the first car that his name would have appeared would have been the gold car.
Yes. Which is his favourite car, as we discovered over the last week.
Yeah. No, it's one that I always link to our sponsorship of John. It's one I had up in my bedroom as a child as well. But originally, Dad got involved in the sport as a spectator back in, well, for people around this area, in the Nelson days. Yeah. And then started as a mechanic for anyone that's old enough to remember, Mark Duxbury.
Oh, yeah.
Who unfortunately passed away in the mid-90s and sort of, I don't know how it came about, but transferred the sponsorship they had with Mark onto John, and we've been around it ever since.
Yeah, brilliant. And I guess, so has your involvement as a family sort of since then just been sort of sponsors of John and going and watching stock cars?
Yes, absolutely. As a child, I wanted to race mini stocks. My dad didn't see that as a very good idea just because of how busy he was at work and the time spent in the workshop. So from a stock cars perspective, we were just spectators. But me as a child constantly nagging him, can I have a mini, can I have a mini, can I have a mini? He somehow managed to settle that go-karting was a better idea for time spent. And we went down that route from the early 2000s.
And is that what you've been doing up until, I guess, this point now?
So started go-kart racing back end of 2002. Was about 11 years old. And then me and my brother packed up somewhere between 2009 and 10. Got jobs in the family business and got to about 2014, and I'd sort of scratched the motorsport itch, still wanted to carry on. So I looked at stock cars, but really couldn't see viable for myself, didn't really have the money to pursue it all the time, or so I felt. And so I bought a Renault Clio and built it into a circuit racing car. Yeah. And from 2015, did 4 years of that, had a couple of years off, bought a house, life responsibilities sort of get in the way. Bought a house just before COVID hit, did it through the first year of COVID, 2020, and built myself a Honda Civic and raced that in 2021. So always been around motorsport, do a lot helping my friends out as well. But was fully intending on racing the Honda again this year. But I've always sort of been looking but not looking at cars, and one just came up at the right money, and before I knew it, I'd bought it, and I've sat there with a Honda Civic and a stock car sat in the shed. So,
so is I mean a great story in terms of sort of your racing history. Is the intention to go into stock cars and sort of leave the circuit racing behind, or is it kind of see how stock cars goes and sort of make a decision?
In an ideal world, yes, but my partner Katie doesn't agree, so that unfortunately the Honda has sold. So yeah, we've just got the stock car. I've decided I'm 30 years old now. I need to either get on with it or not bother, and I decided I'm going to get on with it because I've always wanted to do it, and we'll see how we go and see if we enjoy it.
Because it's very different, isn't it? I mean, obviously you've got the driving. I guess there's some driving abilities you can bring across, but being in a stock car and being in a circuit car are two very different forms of motorsport, aren't
they? Yeah, I'd say so. Although if you'd watch me drive the circuit car, you might think differently. You might think it's suited to a stock car. It was never the prettiest thing on track, but yeah, there will be some aspects of it. The bit I'm hoping is that the experience I've got from racing, which I'm not the world's best driver, it's purely a hobby for me, but I'll maybe help me pick it up a little bit faster.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. So you've gone out and you've bought a car. First question I have to ask is, what number have you gone with this year?
I've got the number 163, which is the same number that was allocated to me when I hired a car about 5 years ago. I hired a car off Matt Newson and did a Birmingham tarmac meeting just because I to have a go. Ironically, the number actually got no resemblance to any number we've used. Me or my brother have used in racing over the years. So when we both went go-karting, at the time we were John London, Kev Smith fans.
Yeah.
So my younger brother Thomas picked 53 and I picked 64. 64 never really did me any favours in karting. So when I went circuit racing, I chose to use his number or John's number 53. Seemed to do a bit better for it, but for obvious reasons, can't have the number 53 in stock cars. And the number 64 was taken. So I got assigned 163 and that's what we'll stick with.
It's kind of close enough, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? We've got a 3 in there. But yeah, I always think with stock car numbers, it's how, when you write them on a piece of paper, do they look good? And I think 163 written down, signed on a car will look good. It's a good number.
I'm glad you think so.
Yeah, I think so. So in terms of, without giving too much away, so you've gone out and you bought a stock car. I guess it's completely brand new to you and your family. Have you done much to it over the winter?
Yeah, we've had quite a bit to do because the gentleman I bought it off was quite a bit shorter than me, so it was a challenge to get me to fit comfortably. But as I'm learning, that's just tends to be stock cars compared to what I'm used to. So yeah, we've done a bit of work, getting me in it and getting it so I'm comfortable and just sort of understanding what they're all about, really, because it's been a long time since my dad's done anything with one, and I never have in essence at all.
So in terms of that learning experience, have you got any, I guess, you mentioned John London, have you got people around you that can go, right, this is what you need to do? Or is it just very much you two sort of learning as you go?
From an oval racing perspective, it's going to be a bit of learning as we go. John's a great guy, he'll happily point me in the right direction, and so do a couple of his mechanics, Stephen and Mark, as well. So it's just listening to what people say and finding my own way with it, I guess, because everyone drives a little bit differently, and setups you can have so many different setups that are still capable of winning a race. So that's my experience of motorsport anyway. Yeah,
I think when you talk to drivers, that not everybody, but people seem very happy to help and support each other in terms of, when you're at a racetrack, maybe try and do this, car setup, etc. So you kind of come into a good formula for that, aren't you?
Yeah, from what I'm seeing, I've seen over the years, people are quite happy to knock 7 bells out of each other on the track, and have like wars on the circuit, as you would be, rivalries, but then you come in off the circuit and into the pits and they're helping each other fix the car, or sharing parts. So fingers crossed it's like we get the same experience from it.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. Right, Mark, just kind of, I guess, hand over to you now. So if you want to reveal your car that you're going to make your Formula 1 debut in for 2022.
Yeah, so here's my Briscoe F1 stock car, and we're running the number 163 this year.
Mark, clearly, you've done quite a bit of work, and I'm liking the colour scheme that you've gone with there.
Yeah, so originally when the car came to us, it was blue and gunmetal grey. We've not had the time to strip it all back and go for the normal silver colour that we go through all the cars I've had. So we've got silver panelling, obviously the white roof, and we've left the chassis the original colour it came. And if all goes well this year and we enjoy it, we'll maybe recondition the car fully over the winter and come again for next year.
So do you recognise the car? Who was it you bought it off?
So I bought the car off Alan Sturgis. I believe it was a bit of a project for him for a couple of years. He only raced it for one meeting in 2021 and decided to go down a different route and a different formula.
Yeah. So I guess it's, in terms of, not much pedigree potentially, but at least it's kind of hopefully pretty straight and it's going in the right places.
Yeah, no, it's quite a tidy looking car. I mean, the more you look, as with more stock cars, the more bends you find. But no, it'd be a good starter car for me. It's a big block car. It was relatively inexpensive in terms, well, it was cheap for a stock car, but for me, it's a great starter car just to see if we like it. And it's a lot of money for a lot of people, but it's not silly money in motorsport terms to have a go at something.
Yeah, I think we do talk about the cost of Formula One, and then when you kind of look further afield and the costs in other motorsport, actually, it's a relatively cheap formula to get into. It's sort of that sort of middle bottom end. It's not as expensive as people think, is it?
Well, I guess we'll find out. But from ultimately, the biggest thing that's going to cost is the damage. And that is something that you can't plan for, particularly in a contact motorsport. But I mean, I've come from racing with the 750 Motor Club, which for anyone out there that does or doesn't know, they're probably the most affordable form of circuit racing in the country. So they're a club, non-profit like organisation, and it's absolutely brilliant to race with them, but it's still not cheap. It's the cheapest form of motorsport you'll find racing on iconic circuits like Brands Hatch, Oulton Park, Donington, Silverstone. But to be competitive in that formula or any of the formulas, you need to be doing a Friday test day. Well, they're ranging between 300 and 400 quid just to do the day. There's the wear and tear on the car, and you're all fighting over that last tenth. So you can quite happily spend between £1,000 and 1,500 quid a meeting at affordable club level just to be somewhere near competitive. Now, again, I could quite happily see that being spent on a stock car in one meeting, but also the beauty of it for me is there's 40 meetings a year. Work is very challenging. Going away for 3 days circuit racing is not very conducive for work. And also with the circuit racing, when you're tied into 6 or 7 rounds in a championship, you can't afford to miss one either. Well, this should be a lot better for us in terms of if we have a busy few weeks coming up, we know we can, unless it's something like a semi-final or any big meetings you may want to do, you can just drop away from it and come back to it a couple of months later, and you've not really lost a lot. And the fact that there's no entry fees is massive as well.
Well, we get paid to race, don't we? Do you know what I mean? And that's a huge positive. I think that people still see about Formula One. You've got your start money, you've got your prize money, plus you've got your mechanics that get in with you as passers. So, you're already kind of better off in some respects, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for the circuit racing, if we were to go through it, you'll spend £300-400 on a test day, as mentioned, £300-400 on entries, pair of front tyres on the front wheel drive cars. Well, that's another 300 quid. So you can quickly see you've spent £1,000 before you've even turned a wheel. You pick up a bit of damage, and you're quickly into a lot of money, and that has had a bearing on me making the jump and deciding ultimately I wanted to do it, and thought if I don't do it, I'm never going to do it. But the cost of that was getting more and more and more. So fingers crossed.
Well, it's great to have you come across. You could obviously mention this year is a bit of a find your feet year. Are you kind of sort of planning on how many meetings you're going to do, or is it just a case of just take it as it goes?
We're going to take it as we go, because it wasn't really planned. We've got a few things. Me and Katie have got a couple of holidays planned, so it's just take it as we go. It is genuinely just a hobby for us, as the circuit racing always has been. And probably, we're originally planned to do tarmac, but decided that the closest realistic meeting that was monthly was Skegness. Decided to go for the shale, even though with no concept of racing on dirt. So probably try and stick around Bradford, the odd Kings Lynn, the odd Northampton, and if we're feeling brave at the back end of the year, might tempt Sheffield and see if we keep out the fence.
Yeah, good. We like people that go to Sheffield. I think Sheffield's great.
Yeah, I've always loved it as a kid. Ironically, they're one of my customers at work. There's the dog track, so I've actually spent a lot of time there, but not watching racing in recent years. So, we might try Sheffield if we fancy ripping an axle out the car.
Yeah, do the back end of the year when you're going to kind of do a full refurb on it, and then just shove it in the barn or wherever, and then come back to it over the winter. Yeah, that works. So when are you planning on making your debut, Mark?
So the plan is to be out for the first King's Lynn.
Yeah, brilliant.
So throwing ourselves in the deep end and turning up at the first one and seeing what happens.
Bradford the weekend after. It's all right. Your first 2 weekends planned in.
Yeah, it is. I've managed to get permission to do 2 in a row, which has not happened before. So
brilliant. Mark, thank you very much for taking time out to talk to us this evening. It's great to have a new name coming into Formula One. Good luck on Saturday, which is it's a week and a day away. Are you getting a bit nervous?
I'm more nervous to get everything ready. I'm not nervous about the meeting itself. That'll be what it'll be. I guess I'll be nervous at the time, but it's just making sure everything's ready. And again, it's as we were discussing off camera before we start, it's the March thing in the motorsport world, isn't it?
Yeah. There's lots of people that we're talking to at the moment that are very busy this week and last and into next week. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's challenging, particularly if the grass has started growing, which means our job's just getting busier and busier at work. So
that's sunshine. That's what that sunshine's doing, it, isn't it?
Well, could do with a bit of snow for another few weeks.
Brilliant, Mark. Thanks so much again. I love your time, and good luck on Saturday at Kingston. And I'll see you there.
Thank you very much. Great to talk to you.